All right, time to dig into this mountain of personal finance wisdom you've thrown my way. Seriously, though, it's like we have the keys to the financial freedom kingdom just waiting to be unlocked. And the best part, you don't have to be a Wall Street hotshot to make this stuff work.
Exactly. It's more about making savvy decisions that'll pay off big time down the road. Kind of like giving your money a serious upgrade.
I like the sound of that. So where do we even start? Seems like everyone's got their own budgeting system these days. It's overwhelming.
It really is. But what's interesting is the stuff you picked out, it really highlights those budgeting systems that actually get results. And the cool thing is they're all about figuring out what clicks with your personality. Because let's face it, we don't all see eye to eye with money.
So it's all about finding what fits, like a financial fingerprint. What are some of the top contenders in the budgeting world?
Well, one that always gets people talking is zero-based budgeting.
Okay, that one sounds kind of intense. Like every dollar's got to have a mission statement.
Yeah, it's a bit like that. Basically, with zero-based budgeting, you're giving every single dollar you earn a job to do a specific category where it belongs. And the idea is that by the end of the month, your income minus all your expenses should equal zero. No dollar gets left behind. The great thing about this is it forces you to really think about every single spending decision.
I can see how that would make you way more aware of where your money's going.
Exactly. And for some people, that awareness is like a superpower. It gets them motivated. Then there's the 50-30-20 rule, which is a little more flexible, a good one for beginners.
Right, that one makes sense. Needs, wants, savings. Super easy to wrap your head around.
Totally. 50% of what you earn goes towards the essentials, rent, bills, groceries, those things you absolutely need. Then there's 30% for those things you want going out, entertainment, those little joys in life. And lastly, there's that all-important 20% for savings and tackling any debt you might have.
So it's all about finding that sweet spot between enjoying the present and setting yourself up for a solid future. But what about folks who are more visual, like to see things laid out in a tangible way?
That's where the envelope system comes in. This one's a hit with visual learners. Basically, you take your cash and divide it into different categories using, envelopes. Groceries, fun money, whatever it is.
I love that visual element. It's like a game.
It kind of is, and it really helps to prevent those impulse buys. Once the money in an envelope's gone, it's gone. No dipping into next month's funds.
Talk about next level self-control. But I know some people listening are probably thinking, whoa, this all sounds like a lot. Is there a simpler way? Please tell me there is.
Of course. That's the great thing about these sources you gave me. They cover all the bases. The 80-20 rule is as easy as it gets. Spend 80% of your income, save or invest the other 20%, and you're good to go.
Proof that budgeting doesn't have to be this big, complicated thing to work. But you know what does make things easier? Those budgeting apps everyone's raving about.
Right. They're not just a fad. We're talking apps that connect directly to your bank accounts, keep track of your spending, even categorize your transactions. It's amazing.
It's like having a personal finance guru in your pocket. But do they actually help you make, smarter decisions?
That's the beauty of it. They can pinpoint those spending patterns you might not even be aware of, like suddenly realizing you're spending a fortune on takeout coffee each month. We've all been there.
Oof. Guilty as charged.
Yeah.
But hey, they say knowledge is power, right? Once you see it, you can change it.
100%. And that brings up a really important point. The absolute best budgeting method is the one that you'll actually stick with, the one that works for you.
So true. It's got to fit your personality and your life, right?
Yeah.
But once we've got that budget locked in, what's the next step on this journey to financial freedom?
Well, for a lot of people, the next big hurdle is tackling debt. And let's be real, that can be a pretty daunting thought.
It can feel like this big weight holding you back from achieving all your financial goals.
Exactly. But the sources you've gathered, they offer a really refreshing perspective. It's not just about throwing every penny you have at the problem, but about being strategic, kind of like you're outsmarting your debt.
Now that's something I can get behind. It's like playing financial chess. So, spill the tea. What are these strategic moves?
Two common methods always come up: the snowball method and the avalanche method. Let's kick things off with the snowball, since it's super motivating, especially if you're all about those quick wins.
Okay, color me intrigued. Tell me more about this snowball effect.
Imagine this. You list all your debts from smallest to largest, and I want to stress it doesn't matter what the interest rates are at this point. You're going to focus all your energy on paying off that smallest debt first, while making just the minimum payments on everything else.
So even if that tiny debt has like a super low interest rate,
Yeah,
you're all over it.
you got it. Because each time you knock out a debt, no matter how small, it gives you this mental boost, like, boom, I did that, on to the next. And honestly, that motivation can be crazy powerful. It keeps you going.
I can totally see that. It's like leveling up in a video game. You get that dopamine hit, and it feels good.
Yeah.
But what about the avalanche method? That one sounds a bit more intense.
It definitely involves a bit more number crunching, that's for sure. With the avalanche method, you prioritize paying down the debt with the highest interest rate first, regardless of how big or small the debt itself is.
Because those high interest rates are brutal. They can really sabotage your progress.
You said it. By tackling those high-interest debts head-on, you're cutting down on the total interest you're paying over the life of those loans, which ultimately saves you more money in the long run. Now, it might not be as immediately gratifying as that snowball method, but it's a smart approach that pays off big time.
So it's more about playing the long game, making strategic decisions today for a brighter financial future.
100%. But here's the thing these sources highlight that I find really empowering. Negotiation and automation.
Wait, hold it. Negotiation. You mean I can actually sit down and negotiate with my creditors?
Absolutely. Seriously, it's surprising how many people don't realize this is even an option. Don't be afraid to reach out to those creditors. See if you can negotiate a lower interest rate, especially if you've got a solid track record of on-time payments.
Game changer. I had no clue that was even a possibility.
You have more power than you think. And once you've got those debts under control, automation can be your new best friend. It's a total game changer.
Okay, now you've got me really curious about this automation magic. Break it down for me.
Think of it like this. You set it up once and then forget about it, in the best way possible, of course. You can automate your debt payments so they're automatically deducted from your account every month. Takes the pressure off and ensures you're never late with a payment.
Now, that's what I call brilliant. It takes out that human error factor and keeps those financial goals on track. It's like having a financial autopilot system.
Exactly. It just makes building good financial habits way easier. Speaking of which, we've got to talk about another key player in the financial well-being game, investing.
Ah, yes, investing. Now there's a word that can feel a bit intimidating, but it's also pretty exciting because it's all about growing your money over time.
You got it. And it's not as complex or scary as some folks might think. There are so many ways to invest wisely, even if you don't have a finance degree.
That's music to my ears. But before we jump in, let's address the elephant in the room, or should I say, the fear factor that seems to surround investing.
Right. Investing can feel pretty intimidating, especially if you're new to the game. A lot of people assume it's only for the wealthy or that it's too risky. But honestly, investing is for everyone, and there are ways to manage that risk effectively. And that's exactly what we're going to unpack right after a quick break.
And we're back, ready to demystify the world of investing. Digging into all this stuff, it really hit me that investing isn't about getting rich quick. It's more like planting a tree.
Yeah.
You've got to nurture it over time, and eventually you get to enjoy the fruits of your labor.
It's interesting. These sources really stress that you don't need a ton of cash to get started. Even if you're investing small amounts consistently, they can grow like crazy over time. Remember that superpower we were talking about? Giving your money that extra boost?
This is where that compound growth magic really kicks in.
Bingo. Just like a snowball, the longer it rolls, the bigger it gets. And the earlier you start investing, the more time your money has to compound. It's like a gift that just keeps on giving.
Okay, I'm sold. Early investing it is. But where do I even start? The stock market feels like a giant, confusing monopoly board.
I hear you. It can definitely feel that way. But these sources do a great job of making it all understandable. One of the biggest things to wrap your head around is diversification. Think about it. You want to spread your investments across different things like stocks, bonds, real estate. That way you're not putting all your eggs in one basket.
Right. Makes sense.
Yeah.
So if one investment takes a hit, it doesn't wipe out everything. But how do you choose what to invest in? Trying to analyze every single stock out there feels impossible.
It can feel overwhelming for sure. That's why a lot of investors, especially folks just starting out, they turn to things like index funds or ETFs. Think of them as ready-made, diversified portfolios. You don't have to do all the picking yourself.
Oh, interesting. So instead of picking individual stocks, I could invest in a fund that follows, say, the S&P 500.
Exactly. You'd essentially be investing in a bunch of stocks that represent a big chunk of the market. Super easy way to get that diversification and potentially lower your risk.
That takes a lot of the pressure off. But I've also heard people talking about timing the market. Is that something I need to worry about?
That's where dollar cost averaging comes in. It's a fancy way of saying invest consistently no matter what the market is doing.
So instead of trying to guess when the market's up or down, you just ride the wave.
Pretty much. By investing a set amount regularly, like every month or every few months, you end up buying more shares when the prices are lower and fewer shares when prices are higher. It all balances out.
Okay, so it's like a built-in way to avoid making emotional investment decisions, which, let's face it, we've all been there.
Exactly, we're all human. But one thing these sources really drive home is how important it is to stay the course. Think back to that tree we were talking about. You wouldn't dig it up every few weeks just to check if the roots are growing, right?
Huh, good point. Patience is key. But speaking of long-term goals, all this investing talk makes me think about retirement. And I know we should be planning for it, but it feels a whole far away.
You know, I think retirement sometimes gets a bad rap. It's not just about lounging on a beach somewhere. It's about having the freedom to live the life you want without being tied to a paycheck. That's the dream, right?
Now, that's a retirement plan I can get behind.
Mm-hmm.
But how do we bridge that gap between where we are now and that vision of financial freedom down the road?
These sources really hammer home the importance of starting early, even if you can only put aside a little bit. Remember compound growth. It's your best friend. The sooner you start, the more time your money has to work its magic.
So even if I'm just starting my career, I shouldn't wait to start saving for retirement.
Not at all. Even a small amount each month can turn into a nice little nest egg over time.
Mm-hmm.
And speaking of retirement savings, we got to talk about those powerful tools. IRAs and 401ks. They can make a huge difference.
Okay, yeah, those acronyms always sound so official, a little confusing. Can you break those down for me?
Absolutely. Basically, they're accounts that come with tax advantages designed specifically for retirement savings. So let's start with the 401k. Usually your employer offers this, and here's the best part. A lot of employers offer what they call an employer match.
Wait, hold on. Are you saying free money? Tell me more.
You got it. Free money. Your employer basically matches a certain percentage of whatever you contribute up to a certain limit. It's like getting a bonus just for saving for your future.
Okay, yeah, that's a no-brainer. Sign me up. But what about IRAs? How do those work?
So IRAs are individual retirement accounts. You can open one on your own, no matter who you work for. There are two main flavors, traditional and Roth IRAs. They each have their own set of tax benefits.
So depending on my situation, one might be a better fit than the other.
You got it. Doing a little research or maybe chatting with a financial advisor can help you figure out which one makes the most sense for you. But the main takeaway here is don't underestimate these tax-advantaged accounts. They're powerful tools.
It's like giving those retirement savings a serious boost. So we've got our 401ks and IRAs cooking. What else can we do to really maximize those retirement savings?
Remember those dividends we were talking about earlier? You know, if you're investing in stocks or funds that pay dividends, don't let that money just sit there. Reinvest it. Let it snowball.
It's like planting the seeds from your money tree to grow a whole orchard of money trees.
Now that's an image. I love it. It's such a simple but powerful way to make that money grow faster.
This is all making so much sense. But, you know, there's one piece of the puzzle that still feels a little fuzzy for me. Budgeting. How does that fit into this whole picture of financial well-being? Let's untangle that right after this quick break. And we're back, folks. Ready to tie this whole financial game plan together. We've covered budgeting, tackling debt, investing like pros. It's like we're putting together an all-star team for our finances.
You know, it's funny. A lot of people think budgeting is about limiting yourself, but these sources really emphasize that it's more about giving yourself permission to spend, but strategically, of course.
I like that. It's about making intentional choices so you can afford the things that really matter to you.
Exactly. Think of your budget as your financial GPS, guiding you towards your goals, whether it's buying a house, starting that dream business, or retiring early.
Okay, I'm picturing it. So if budgeting is the roadmap, what are some of those big milestones along the way?
Well, for a lot of folks, it starts with building that solid foundation, a sense of control, and a lot of times that starts with an emergency fund.
Right, that rainy day fund everyone's always talking about.
Exactly. It's your safety net, that financial cushion you can fall back on if unexpected expenses pop up. That way, you're not throwing your whole plan off track.
So how much should you actually aim to have stashed away in this emergency fund?
The general rule of thumb is to have about 3 to 6 months worth of living expenses saved up. But you know, the great thing is you can adjust that based on your own situation, your comfort level with risk.
Makes sense. It's like a custom-made safety net.
Yeah.
But okay, once you've got that cushion, how do you figure out what financial goals to focus on next? What are those big picture dreams?
It's all about figuring out what truly lights your fire. What do you want your life to look like 5, 10, 20 years down the road?
So it's about getting clear on your values and then making sure your financial goals are aligned with those values.
Nailed it. Whether it's retiring early, traveling the world, or finally pursuing those creative passions you've put on hold, knowing your why can be incredibly powerful. It gives your financial journey a sense of purpose.
I love that. It's not just about the numbers. It's about designing a life you're excited about.
Absolutely. And that's why it's so important to check in with yourself and revisit those goals in your budget every now and then. As your life changes, your financial plan might need some tweaking too.
It's a continuous journey of learning, growing, and adapting as you go.
Exactly. And honestly, that's what makes it so empowering. When you take control of your finances, you're not just securing your future, you're opening up a world of possibilities.
No doubt about it. This whole deep dive has been eye-opening for sure. So before we wrap things up, let's recap those key takeaways, those actionable steps our listeners can take right now to level up their financial game.
Sounds good. Number 1, find a budgeting method that works for you. Whether it's that super detailed zero-based budgeting, the straightforward 50-30-20 rule, or even that super simple 80-20 approach, the most important thing is finding one you can actually stick with.
Right. It's got to fit your life. Number 2, remember you've got this. You can totally outsmart your debt. Find a repayment strategy that speaks to you, whether it's the snowball method for those quick wins or the avalanche method for tackling those high-interest debts strategically. And hey, don't be afraid to pick up the phone and negotiate with those creditors. You might be surprised what you can accomplish.
Love it. And number 3, don't shy away from investing. Start early, even if it's just a little bit. Spread those investments around and check out those index funds or ETFs if you want to keep things simple. Oh, and dollar cost averaging. That's your secret weapon for navigating those market ups and downs like a pro.
Yes. And last but definitely not least, make that retirement planning a priority. Those 401ks and IRAs are your best friends, especially if your employer offers a match. It's like free money, people. Don't leave it on the table.
And remember, it's all about those small, consistent actions. Even if you can only invest a small amount every month, it can grow into something pretty amazing over time. Remember that whole compound growth magic we talk about? That's where the real magic happens.
Totally. It's like that example we were looking at earlier, investing just $5,000 up front, consistently adding to it, and potentially ending up with over $640,000 after 30 years. It's mind-blowing.
Talk about a powerful reminder that when it comes to building wealth, time is on your side.
Absolutely. It really makes you wonder, what could you achieve if you started with a bit more or invested a bit more each month? Something to think about as you embark on your own financial adventure. Just remember, this is a marathon, not a sprint. Pace yourself.
So true. There will be some bumps along the way, but by staying informed, focusing on your goals, and staying consistent, you've got this. You can absolutely achieve those financial dreams.
This deep dive has given us all so much to think about, and we hope you've enjoyed it. Until next time, everyone, keep learning, keep growing, and keep exploring the world around you.